Two iconic, powerful women during two very different times. Falling in love with a prince would be the element that would change their lives and destinies forever. Was it really worth giving their lives as Hollywood stars away for love? Grace Kelly, Her Serene Highness Princess Grace of Monaco. Grace Kelly is one of the most admired and iconic women in the world. She is forever remembered as a standard of beauty, style, and grace. From Hollywood starlet to princess consort, Grace's life is truly like no other. Poised, reserved, supremely elegant. In short, royalty. Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex. First, she became a UN women's advocate and traveled to India and Rwanda on humanitarian missions. After a few dates with a prince, everything changed. Meghan and Harry's relationship led to an avalanche of tabloid interest, some of it tinged with racism. In the weeks before their wedding, they were the victims of harsh online attacks, as well as optimism for the future. Meghan's rise to the top of British society revealed some deep-seated issues in a multicultural country. Meghan wouldn't compromise her authenticity despite any criticism she received. After the wedding, it was clear that Meghan excelled in the role of royal senior. Grace and Meghan are the Hollywood princesses. Grace Kelly and Meghan Markle were both born and raised in the United States, but in completely different eras. They had big dreams and wanted to pursue specific careers, but their lives would take different turns when they discovered their passion for acting along the way. Grace Kelly grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to an athletic, affluent, and influential Irish family. She spent her childhood surrounded by her siblings. The family had 4 children. Peggy, the eldest, was the father's favorite. John Jr., the only son. Elizabeth, Lizanne, the youngest. And Grace, who always stayed in the background and seemed to be a shy girl. Both Grace's parents came from a sporting background. Her mother, Margaret, was the first coach of women's teams at the University of Pennsylvania, while her father, John, was a triple Olympic champion. Uninterested in sports, Kelly was determined to forge her own path. In 1940, inspired by a Russian ballet performance, Kelly began taking dance lessons as her first dream was to become a ballerina. However, she was unsuitable due to her height, but determined to follow a different path to her athletic family. She turned her dreams in a new direction. She decided she wanted to become an actress at a young age and studied acting, primarily theater, at New York City's American Academy of Dramatic Arts. Kelly's dreams of becoming an actress were met with disapproval by her father, John B. Kelly Sr. He had decidedly old-fashioned views about the vulgarity of the stage and screen, despite the success of his brothers, actor and vaudeville comedian Walter C. Kelly and George Kelly, director and playwright. She almost didn't make it into the academy as the school had already filled all available openings, but Kelly's Uncle George stepped in to urge them to accept her. After auditioning with a scene from her uncle's play, The Torchbearers, Kelly managed to secure herself a place in the prestigious academy. Following her graduation, her Uncle George continued to advise and mentor Kelly throughout her acting career. Meghan grew up in Los Angeles, California. She identifies as mixed race, being born to a Caucasian father and an African-American mother. Meghan's father, Thomas, has worked as a lighting director, as well as director of photography on numerous projects, and used to take Meghan along on set sometimes when she was growing up, which could have potentially sparked her interest in the world of acting and film. Meghan has previously stated that she had struggled with embracing being biracial while being cast, since she wasn't considered black enough for the black roles or white enough for the white roles. During her time in school, Meghan would take part in lots of plays and musicals that her dad would help with lights for. Before she got admitted into university, she used to have numerous jobs, as well as volunteering at a soup kitchen in Skid Row. After her junior year, she got an internship as a junior press officer at the American Embassy in Buenos Aires with the help of her uncle, and even considered a political career, but she didn't score enough on the test. In 2003, she earned a bachelor degree with a double major in theater and international studies. Grace and Meghan eventually found their way to Hollywood, even though both of them had different dreams growing up. Their hard work and dedication paid off as they secured important roles in the world of cinema.
Lovelier face than that belonging to a young and beautiful Philadelphia belle known to the world as Grace Kelly. While working as a fashion and photographer's model, Hollywood had discovered her. And she, in turn, took Hollywood by storm.
Kelly worked as a stage actress and model before moving to Hollywood. At her father's insistence, she lived at the Barbizon Hotel for Women in Manhattan. She was hired as a model, and some of her first modeling jobs were commercials for bug spray and cigarettes. Her fellow residents knew Kelly as an outgoing and confident individual, which was very different from how she grew up. Kelly's start in the industry was slow, however. By 1953, she had secured supporting roles in her first big Hollywood films. Her family and friends, who never thought of her as being anywhere near movie star material, were stunned when they saw her on the big screen for the first time. Throughout her adult life, Kelly was frequently described as one of the most beautiful women in the world. But she wasn't considered particularly attractive in her younger years, even after landing some work as a model. Kelly's start in the film industry was slow. Although her films were successful, her performances were often reviewed as unexciting by critics. Alfred Hitchcock described her early performance in High Noon as rather mousy and lacking animation, claiming that it was only in her later films that she really blossomed and showed her true star quality. Her performance in The Country Girl was nominated and ultimately won the Academy Award for Best Actress. Her acceptance speech was brief.
The thrill of this moment keeps me from saying what I really feel. I can only say thank you with all my heart to all who made this possible for me. Thank you.
She had many award nominations, including in 1956, when she won the Golden Globe's Henrietta Award for World Film Favorites. Meghan took on a calligrapher job in order to be able to support herself in between acting roles. She started by getting small roles or guest appearances on different shows, her first appearance being on a show that her father was lighting director for. After being on a few episodes of shows like Fringe, Century City, The War at Home, she landed her biggest role in the TV series Suits. Meghan was on the show from 2011 to late 2017. This role would be the one that would help her make a name for herself. Both Grace and Meghan happened to meet the men that would become their husbands through mutual friends who suggested they should be introduced to each other. Their friends could tell right away that the princes would be great matches for them. In the spring of 1955, Kelly was asked to join the United States Delegation Committee at the Cannes Film Festival in France. While on the train to France, Kelly met Olivia de Havilland and her newlywed husband, Pierre Galante, an editor at Paris Match magazine. They immediately suggested introducing Kelly with a young Prince of Monaco. She immediately agreed, but made the highly professional proviso that such a meeting must first be approved of by the studio sponsoring her visit to Cannes. Although this meeting didn't go as smoothly as intended, with issues of timing for the meeting and labor strikes shutting down the city's electricity, when she finally arrived at the palace, the delay caused her to miss the prince. So instead, Kelly was given a tour of the palace without him. Thankfully, the prince arrived before Kelly had to leave, and Prince Rainier III of Monaco decided to give her a tour of his gardens. The two walked ahead of their entourages, chatting with one another in his garden, while Paris March documented the meeting in photographs. Prince Rainier was seeking a bride at the time. After this brief encounter, he had his heart set on this American actress. They struck up a courtship, and even after Kelly returned to the United States, she and Rainier would correspond continuously. Luckily, they didn't have to deal with long distance for long. Rainier had a diplomatic tour that brought him to the US, where he met with Kelly and her family. 3 days later, he proposed. But things aren't so simple when you're marrying a prince. Before Kelly was allowed to marry Prince Rainier, her family had to seal the deal by paying a dowry. Kelly had a couple of other things to do before she could join the royal family of Monaco. The first being that she had to renounce her American citizenship. The second was that Kelly had to take a fertility test. The royal family needed to be sure that she could give the prince an heir. If he didn't produce an heir, Monaco would become part of France. In 2016, Misha Nonu, a mutual friend and fashion designer, set up Prince Harry and Meghan Markle on a blind date. They kept their relationship very private for a few months, until the press caught wind of it. The royal was reported happier than he has been for many years.
We were introduced actually by a mutual friend. It was through her, and then we met once and then twice back to back, 2 dates in London last July.
Yes.
Beginning of July.
They had their first date at Soho House in London in 2016. And then, of course, you know, with Meghan living and working at the time in Toronto in Canada, where she was filming Suits, and Harry being based in London, they realised they would have to really go out their way to make time for each other very quickly. So within a few weeks of that first date, they were on holiday together in Botswana.
Prince Harry had dated a string, really, of beautiful English socialites. They tended to be blonde and willowy, very great backgrounds, you know, wealthy families, went to the right schools. However, what Meghan brought to the equation was a lot of humanitarian work that Harry's ex-girlfriends just couldn't even touch with a 10-foot pole. Meghan had actually worked for the UN. She'd gone on missions and trips to support women and children in the developing world. Meghan had been a global humanitarian long before she met Prince Harry. And I think as Harry was very close to stepping into his full role as a member of the royal family, the possibility of meeting someone who was equally passionate and engaged about changing the world and helping other people was extremely attractive to Harry. I think if you watch the engagement interview that Harry and Meghan did on BBC, and they talk about their first meeting and how they instantly connected, it's apparent that, yes, there was a mutual attraction, but it went far beyond the physical. Meghan and Harry were attracted to what each other believed in and what each other wanted to do in the world.
So no, I'd never watched Suits. I'd never heard of Meghan before, and I was beautifully surprised when I walked into that room and saw her, and there she was sitting there. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna really have to up my game here. I'm gonna sit down and and make sure I've got a good chat.
I think for both of us, though, it was really refreshing because, given that I didn't know a lot about him, everything that I've learned about him, I learned through him, as opposed to having grown up around different news stories or tabloids or whatever else. Anything I learned about him and his family was what he would share with me, and vice versa. So for both of us, it was just a really authentic and organic way to get to know each other.
And was that quite refreshing for you in the way that you've been brought up, you know, with a lot of people knowing a lot about you? Was it refreshing?
Or thinking they know.
Or thinking they know.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it was hugely refreshing to be able to get to know someone who isn't necessarily within your circle, doesn't know much about me, I don't know much about her. So to be able to start almost afresh, right from the beginning, and getting to know each other step by step, and then taking that huge leap of only 2 dates, and then going effectively on holiday together in the middle of nowhere, and you know, sharing a tent together and all that kind of stuff. It was fantastic. It was absolutely amazing to get to know her as quickly as I did.
The pair made their first public appearance together since avoiding the spotlight for so long at the 2017 Invictus Games in Toronto, even showing affection as the two sat front row to watch wheelchair tennis.
I think Meghan had quite a difficult initial period after their relationship was confirmed, and we know this because Harry issued a statement defending her and sort of warning people off. You know, she described it as disheartening and discriminatory, but Harry himself mentioned sort of racial undertones, which is pretty upsetting for anyone concerned. And I think, you know, it is a difficult situation when you're thrust into the glare of media interest. The royal family garner a huge amount of attention, and you know, we know that they're not necessarily delighted by it, but you know, they work closely with the media to get their messages across. But I think nothing prepared Harry and Meghan for the wave of interest that followed the announcement of their relationship. And in fact, it was Harry's statement that confirmed they were a couple for the first time. I think it's a really difficult one because they are going to have to get used to the scrutiny, but it's only right that she's treated fairly, and I think it was upsetting for everyone to see that she'd been, you know, caused problems by this coverage.
How much of a sense did you have, Meghan, of the enormity of what you were getting into, what it might mean for your life?
I think I can very safely say, as naive as it sounds now, having gone through this learning curve in the past year and a half, I did not have any understanding of just what it would be like. I don't think either of us did that. We both said that, even though we knew that it would be. You know,
I tried to warn you as much as possible, but I think both of us were totally surprised by the reaction after the first 5-6 months of when we had to ourselves of what actually happened from then. So I think you can have as many conversations as you want and try and prepare as much as possible, but we were totally unprepared for what happened after that.
It was confirmed by Kensington Palace that Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were engaged. The romantic moment occurred when the pair were cooking a quiet dinner at home. While most people get parental permission to marry their significant other, Prince Harry had an additional person to please before he walked down the aisle. In a letter to the Privy Council advisors, the Queen expressed her wedding well wishes to Meghan and Harry, giving them the royal seal of approval.
It happened a few weeks ago, early this month, here at our cottage. Just a standard, typical night for us.
It's a cozy night. What were we doing? Just roasting chicken and having
trying to roast chicken.
Trying to roast a chicken, and it was just an amazing surprise. It was so sweet and natural and very romantic. He got on one knee.
Of course.
Was it an instant yes from you?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I could barely let you finish proposing. I was like, can I say yes now?
She didn't even let me finish. She said, can I say yes, can I say yes now? And then there was hugs, and I had the ring in my finger, and I was like, can I give you the ring? She goes, oh, yes, the ring. So, no, it was a really nice moment. It was just the two of us, and I think I managed to catch her by surprise as well. So.
Yeah.
And Buckingham Palace issued a statement saying the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh are delighted for the couple and wish them every happiness.
And the engagement has the approval of her future father-in-law.
No, we're thrilled, thank you very much, to both of them. I hope they'll be very happy indeed.
There's a misconception that because I have worked in the entertainment industry that this would be something I would be familiar with. But even though I'd been on my show for, I guess, 6 years at that point, and working before that, I've never been part of tabloid culture. I've never been in pop culture to that degree, and lived a relatively quiet life, even though I focused so much on my job. And so that was a really stark difference out of the gate. But and I think we were just hit so hard at the beginning with a lot of mistruths that I made the choice to not read anything, positive or negative. It just didn't make sense, and instead we focused all of our energies just on nurturing our relationship.
On us, yeah.
On us.
Both royal weddings have been closely followed by the public, who waited to find out every little detail. While Meghan and Prince Harry's wedding was watched by almost 2 billion people, Grace and Prince Rainier's wedding was watched by 30 million people. MGM wanted to broadcast it in exchange of releasing Grace from her contract.
Prince Rainier's yacht bears his betrothed in triumph into the harbor at Monaco. A few hours earlier, Grace Kelly of Philadelphia and Hollywood stepped aboard the Deo Gigante from the liner Constitution, which carried her across the Atlantic. A picture queen who will become a princess greets her new subjects and is greeted by them in turn as she goes ashore to a tumultuous welcome. The little postcard principality wears its heart on its sleeve, its feelings expressed by 2 small monegasques offering flowers. From far or near, all eyes are on this old world city and its bachelor prince, who wooed and won him a leap year bride in the new world. Through streets decked with American and Monacan flags, he whisks her off to his pink and white castle on the eve of the wedding of the year.
Voulez-vous prendre pour légitime épouse Grâce Patricia, ici présente, selon le rite de notre mère, la Sainte Église. Grâce Patricia, voulez-vous prendre pour légitime époux Régnier Louis Henri Maxence Bertrand, ici présent, selon le rite de notre mère, la Sainte Église. Ego conjugum vos in matrimonium, in nomine Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.
The Napoleonic Code of Monaco and the laws of the Catholic Church necessitated 2 ceremonies, both a civil ceremony and a religious ceremony. The wedding between Kelly and Prince Rainier was a grand affair, to say the least, and the people of Monaco were ecstatic. Thousands of them lined the streets to greet their new 26-year-old princess following the nuptials, a day no one would forget. The wedding was called the Wedding of the Century and is still considered one of the most beautiful weddings ever. Despite the public popularity, not a single crowned head attended the marriage, synonymous with their status within royal circles. However, it wouldn't take long for the newly crowned princess to change everything. Being a Hollywood actress, Kelly naturally attracted crowds. Hotel bookings and tourist revenues increased spectacularly in the build-up to what was dubbed the Wedding of the Century. By 1961, the attraction was no longer Monte Carlo or the casinos, but the export princess of Monaco that was Grace Kelly. 5 years after the Wedding of the Century, Monaco's business turnover had reached $128 million, a 400% increase in 10 years. Harry and Meghan's wedding was an extremely exciting event for the fans of the royal family. The wonderful wedding ceremony took place at St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle on May 19, 2018. An estimated number of almost 2 billion people have tuned in to watch the elegant ceremony of the two.
Everyone was excited. The crowds were enormous. As you came up that very famous park, it was mobbed. I mean, both sides of where their carriage was going to go was thousands and thousands of people stood back to back, ready to cheer them on. The applause, the cheers as they drove through Windsor were deafening. There was a tremendous amount of love and support for Meghan and Harry on their special day.
As they were to find out, Meghan and Grace had to give up their lives as they knew them in order to become part of the royal family once the wedding took place. They had to give up their acting careers, and later on we're going to find out that they would sacrifice more than that in order to be able to fit the picture-perfect princess mold. Kelly abandoned her acting career in order to become Princess Consort of Monaco. Director Alfred Hitchcock, who had become one of Kelly's mentors during the last years of her career, hoped that Kelly would appear in more of his films which required an icy blonde lead actress. But even he was unable to coax her out of retirement. Allegedly, Hitchcock planned to use 1962's Marnie as Kelly's big comeback to the silver screen, and the princess agreed to take the part. In March 1962, Monaco's palace spokesman announced that Princess Grace would play the role, then give up acting altogether. The citizens of Monaco were not so keen on having their princess return to the movies.
A domestic bombshell which gave fuel to the Monegasque rumor factory was the announcement that Princess Grace was to become a film actress once again for Alfred Hitchcock. But the princess continues to live up to her title of Serene Highness with an endless and energetic round of social and official duties. And her husband has emphasized that her film this summer will not be allowed to interfere with her family and official obligations.
In April, Kelly announced that she was withdrawing from the production, ostensibly due to scheduling difficulties. Following the end of her film career, Kelly performed her daily duties as a royal princess and became involved in philanthropic work. As Princess Consort, she served as president of the Garden Club of Monaco, president of the Red Cross of Monaco, and president of the organizing committee of the International Arts Foundation. Kelly loved flowers, a passion that began in her hometown of Philadelphia and bloomed throughout her life. Kelly was an established expert on flowers and conducted classes on floral arrangements. In 1968, her love of flowers led her to establish the Garden Club of Monaco. Since retiring as an actress, Kelly rechanneled her creativity in creating pressed flower collages. Her knowledge of flowers soon evolved, and she was soon designing and making pressed flower arrangements. Now, the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan, didn't waste any time settling right into the family. On July 10th, just 2 months after they tied the knot, Harry and Meghan appeared on the balcony of Buckingham Palace alongside Her Majesty the Queen and other members of the royal family. The family were joining in celebrations for a historic flyover to mark the historic 100-year anniversary of the Royal Air Force. One of the most important roles for a member of the royal family are the charities and causes they choose to support, and the significant work they do for those causes. On June 14, 2017, England saw its worst post-war fire at Grenfell Tower. The avoidable tragedy cost 72 lives and devastated the lives of residents and the local community.
As I was settling into my new home of London, I met a group of women whose community had been affected by the Grenfell fire. They had decided to get together to cook fresh food for their families and their neighbors.
After the fire, it was somewhere where they could make food to take back to their hotel room where you don't have facilities to cook. It was sort of comforting to be able to do that, and the kitchen gave them the opportunity to do it.
Thank you, everyone, so much for coming. Can you hear me all right? Yes, great. Thank you for coming for the launch of Together to celebrate this and the women of the Hub Community Kitchen. Working on this project for the past 9 months has been a tremendous labor of love. I had just recently moved to London, and I felt so immediately embraced by the women in the kitchen, your warmth and your kindness, and also to be able to be in the city and to see in this one small room how multicultural it was. On a personal level, I feel so proud to live in a city that can have so much diversity. It's 12 countries represented in this one group of women. It's pretty outstanding. I said in the foreword that this is more than a cookbook. And what I mean by that is the power of food is more than just the meal itself. It is the story behind it. And when you get to know the story of the recipe, you get to know the person behind it. And that's what we're talking about in terms of coming together to really engage and talk and to be able to celebrate what connects us rather than what divides us. That, I believe, is the ethos of Together. So to the women of the Hub Community Kitchen, thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this adventure with you. I'm so privileged to know you. I'm so excited to see the projects you're going to continue to do in your own community, the community at large, and also how you're going to inspire people globally by sharing your stories and your recipes. It's so impactful. We can see just in a few days alone, and the book's not even out yet, what you've been able to do. That's a testament to what this means to people, and I'm so proud of you. So on that note, I know some of you started eating, as you should. I'd be the last one to want the food to get cold. So please enjoy a beautiful lunch. Another round of applause for the women of the Hub Community Kitchen. And cheers.
For both Meghan and Grace, the joining of the royal family didn't turn out to be as easy as it seemed initially. They have both faced consequences and criticism that would take a toll on them eventually. Having established the Principality as a playground for the rich and famous, Kelly and Prince Rainier had transformed Monaco. Afraid of the growing threat of Americanization on the purity of French culture, de Gaulle was very resentful that those closest to Prince Rainier were all Americans. De Gaulle organized a blockade of Monaco, cutting the Principality off from mainland France. However, something more sinister was taking up the spotlight. Following the months of negotiations between Prince Rainier III and Charles de Gaulle, an agreement was finally reached on the 18th of May 1963. With help from Grace, Prince Rainier agreed on French citizens with less than 5 years of residence in Monaco and companies doing more than 25% of their business outside the country would be taxed at French rates. A compromise which would help preserve the Principality's image as a luxury holiday destination, something which Grace had heavily contributed to.
For many years now, Monte Carlo has been a rich men's playground, catering for the fashionable society of Europe. Of one of the biggest and most luxurious hotels in the Principality, Reginald Bosanquet spoke to the manager.
we sincerely hope that English clientele will come down very soon to enjoy this small paradise.
Is it very expensive to spend a holiday in Monte Carlo?
Well, of course, it is a bit expensive, but you get some facilities because we have a certain difference of prices in very good places. And of course, people can come at the Hotel de Paris, which is the most expensive, but they can go to other places which are very reasonable and enjoy just as well their holidays.
It is rumored that Grace's insistence on only speaking French to Charles de Gaulle may have contributed to the compromise. Grace's determination to integrate into Monaco society saw her attempting to speak French from the outset, giving her first full French interview in 1959.
Oui, les transitions sont toujours difficiles. Et pour moi, il y avait peut-être plusieurs transitions à faire, c'est-à-dire d'une vie célibataire, d'une femme mariée. Et, au point de vue de changement de pays et d'une langue.
The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have undertaken a public relations blitz, recently appearing in a buzzy primetime interview with Oprah Winfrey that drew millions of viewers. In the interview, the couple discussed mental health issues, and the Duchess said she had suicidal thoughts after marrying into the British royal family. Some viewers noticed a strong resemblance to the interview Harry's mother Diana did in 1995. Interview topics included their courtship, wedding, sex of their second child, Meghan's suicidal thoughts, and a shared feeling of abandonment in terms of financial and emotional support. During the interview, which was filmed in Santa Barbara County, California, Prince Harry and Meghan announced their decision to step down as working members of the British royal family in January 2020. Meghan criticized the British monarchy as an institution, while both Meghan and Harry said that an unidentified member of the royal family made some comments about their son Archie Mountbatten Windsor's skin color. Harry's estrangement from his father Prince Charles and brother Prince William were also discussed, as well as a royal title for Archie. In addition to generating a lot of media attention, the interview received a mixed reaction from political figures. Both Meghan and Grace are strong feminine icons that have followed their hearts while still managing to not let anyone change their dreams, aspirations, and beliefs. Leaving a lasting legacy as a theater artist, television actress, and iconic Hollywood star, Kelly's life would go on to inspire millions around the world, transforming herself from a young stage actress to a household name. The Hollywood starlet who became Monaco's beloved princess against all odds. Her on-screen beauty, self-confidence, and mystery enchanted the world, and her serenity and poise as a princess defined royalty and grace. She will be forever remembered for her contribution to the world of cinema and her unrelenting charitable efforts.
She had that desire to help young artists, young emerging artists, and in the performing arts, and so that's exactly what we did. She didn't have time to set up the foundation in her lifetime. She was busy with other charities and other foundations, and there is also a Princess Grace Foundation Monaco, which helps the dance school and other artists, mostly in painting and sculpture, but really the performing arts in this country, I think she was very keen on.
Often cited as one of the most elegant women in cinematic and world history, with pure intentions and a charitable heart. After all these years, it seems like one of her wishes has been granted by history. I would like to be remembered as someone who accomplished useful deeds and who was a kind and loving person. I would like to leave the memory of a human being with a correct attitude and who did her best to help others. When it comes to Meghan, even when the media try to stir up a storm around the Duchess of Sussex, she always comes out on top, smiling and looking more confident and gorgeous than ever. Much as Grace Kelly has done, Meghan Markle has shown the world that she is very much a strong, modern woman throughout her whirlwind romance, fairy tale wedding, motherhood, and beyond. She is an inspiration to women everywhere. With honesty, empathy, and ambition, she took on the challenges of going from Hollywood to Windsor and grew more popular and loved. Meghan's royal journey may have been short, but there is no doubt that she has done it gracefully. By believing in being themselves, Grace and Meghan have shown the world that handling everything with elegance, grace, and kindness can slowly change the world. They have both dedicated themselves to charity causes and have changed numerous lives for the better.